Hola, buenas tardes y bienvenidos a All Senses Wellness Center, a nuestro programa de bienestar integral. Hello everyone and welcome to All Senses Wellness Center and our program Bienestar Integral. Today we have one of my teachers, one of my yoga teachers of the Amrit Institute of Yoga, Kamini Desai, all over from Iceland. How are you, Kamini? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So happy to get to connect with you
Oh my
halfway
God.
across the world.
I know, right? I was interviewing someone from Argentina, but I said, okay, you are the winner now. I thought, the winner was from Argentina, but now you are number one. We'll have to find, I don't know, maybe someone from Africa, but we'll see. Who knows? So today we are having an interview and the topic is Yoga Nidra. But before I start the interview, I want to speak a little bit about Kamini and her biography. So Kamini is the author of Yoga Nidra, The Art of Transformational Sleep, a worldwide educator and considered an expert on the inner sciences of yoga, yoga nidra, relaxation, and artful living. Over the past 30 years, Kamini has created an exciting and unique body of teachings incorporating Western psychology and Eastern philosophy. Combining her upbringing as daughter of one of the pioneers of yoga in the West with a doctorate in psychology, Kamini is the education director of one of the premier schools of Yoga Nidra in the West, Amrit Yoga Institute. This is your book, and of course, I got the training in Yoga Nidra, and I know a lot about Yoga Nidra, but here in more in the Western, people practice the other types of yoga. So let's start with how do you came across yoga? I know you are the daughter of a guru, but you took another direction, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So, as you said, I grew up as the daughter of a yoga master and learned many of these teachings from a very young age. And, but in my teenage years, like most teens, I decided that, my parents didn't know what I knew and I was going to go off and find my way in the world. And around college age, when I went off, I decided I wanted to be a diplomat. And away from the community, away from the spiritual teachings, I found myself studying international relations in Switzerland and got very depressed, disillusioned by the the politics of peace. There are a lot of politics. And it was really then that I started picking up many of these teachings, including Yoga Nidra, which was one of my core practices. And I found that outer peace begins with inner peace. And so, in a way, I am a diplomat still, but a diplomat of inner peace. It starts from the inside out.
Yes, how ironic, right? You want to do the piece where the piece is supposed to come, and actually, it's difficult sometimes when we want to work with an environment that we are not used to it. I always say I go from the people to, instead of going from the government to the people, I try to go from one to one until you do something, and that's maybe how it works, right?
I think so. I mean, what is a government or what is the world without the people who make it up? And, unless we each individually change, the larger systems don't change.
Yeah. So from all the modalities, what do you focus more on Yoga Nidra? What is Yoga Nidra to you?
Well, to me, Yoga Nidra is a way of making the ancient teachings and profound wisdom of yoga available to everybody. Yoga Nidra is a sleep-based meditation technique. You do it lying down. The hardest thing that you'll have to do is not fall asleep. Even if you do fall asleep, you still get a lot of its restorative benefits. So suddenly it opens up the door for so many people who would have deselected themselves, who would say, well, I can't touch my toes, or I can't sit in lotus position to do traditional meditation, or I don't want to wear the yoga outfit. I won't look good. But, if you can lie down, you can do Yoga Nidra. So suddenly everybody's in and nobody's out. And that's what I love about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember I heard of it, but I never practiced. So I think I went to my first class thinking that I was going to do some poses. And when they
Mhm.
say lie down, I'm like, what is this? And but when I woke up, I'm like, whoa! It just completely relaxed my whole body, and that was my first experience in it. So what is the definition? I know it's basically yoga made into meditation. Is easy for people that doesn't know how to do meditation can easily go into deeper meditation. But what does it have that it could be called a meditation? What is it composed of?
Yeah, so meditation is basically observing your thoughts or resting as that which is beyond your peaceful nature, which is beyond the changing thoughts and emotions that are always coming and going. And really, what's different about Yoga Nidra is it uses the same brain waves as you go into as in sleep. So if you pay attention to when you're falling asleep, there's a point at which, as you go down into the brainwaves, your thoughts move further and further away from you. And it's usually in that gap between you and your thoughts that you're able to fall asleep. And if that gap doesn't happen, if we're too busy worrying or with our to-do list, that gap doesn't happen and we don't fall asleep. So the yogis were very wise, and they basically figured out, what if we were to use this biological process of sleep where the thoughts naturally move further away from you, but instead of entering that gap and falling into sleep, what if we were to just naturally rest in that gap between us and our thoughts? And that's really what Yoga Nidra is. It's using the biology of the body, something that your body already knows how to do, which is fall asleep, but for this spiritual purpose, to rest in that gap between you and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And I love the way you just explain it. You use a lot of understanding, very simple words to explain that. And I remember in the classroom, you use a lot of the science, right? Because of course you are a doctor, and some people has a lot of myth on doing yoga. And when I came to Puerto Rico, a lot of people asked me, I cannot do yoga because I'm from certain religion. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, really, the yoga is a science, and it's a science of finding your inner peace. And it's more about what's common to us as human beings, which is most of us get caught up in our thoughts and emotions, and we get dragged along by them. And, when we're stuck in these worries and fears, that creates insomnia, it creates depression, it creates anxiety. And really what yoga is saying is that there is a peace that is available to you all the time, regardless of what's happening in your life. And if the more that you can touch into that, the more that you're going to be able to kind of ride the waves of life as they come and go. So it's really the science of your inner peace, rather than anything else. It's just you touching that quiet space within yourself.
Yes, I really do understand that. So tell us a little bit about being a psychology and being a master in yoga nidra. How do you use those tools together, and why do you think one would interact with the other, or one is more powerful than the other? Just explain to me that concept.
Yeah, well, and kind of piggybacking on what your last question was, is one of the great things about yoga and yoga nidra is it is scientifically measurable, evidence-based, that it is very powerful for your health. It's very powerful for stress, anxiety, addictions, habits, all different kinds of issues. So whether you relate to that space of inner peace or not, or whether you believe it or not, it's just plain good for your health in a way that a scientist or a researcher would be able to verify. So that's part of its great benefit. And that's part of the reason that I feel like the yogis were the original neuroscientists and original biologists, right? So they are talking, their ancient teachings are talking about things that science is now just able to verify. And by combining these two together and coming in from the ancient teachings and then seeing how science is exactly saying the same thing, but in a different way, just allows our left brains to kind of accept it and be open to it and go, oh, okay, maybe there is something to this yoga nidra stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, I've also got this background in psychology, and I feel like, sometimes the ancient yogic teachings, they've got, fancy words and, things that we don't understand. But psychology is very often saying the exact same thing, but from a Western perspective. And I love looking at one thing from a number of different angles because it just kind of rounds out your understanding and perspective. It makes it more accessible for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So give us an example where, the talking therapy would be too much and yoga nidra will be best.
Yeah, so one of the things that we try to do with talk therapy, and obviously I'm trained in talk therapy too, so that's not that there's something wrong with it, but the pitfall of it is that we can often use the mind to try to solve the problem of the mind. It's like a dog chasing its own tail. So there's a beautiful quote by Einstein: "You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it." You remember this from the training. And so what we're often trying to do is, like, a problem happens and then we're like, well, who caused it? Where did it come from? Well, I should have done this or I could have done that. But that's all thoughts about the original issue, but it's not actually resolving the original issue. So whereas talk therapy can be helpful to understand all the different points and facets around it, and that can be useful to a degree, sometimes we get so much in our head that we're actually using it as a way to just distract ourselves. Like we're talking all around the sadness, but not actually feeling the sadness. So yoga nidra is a powerful way to allow integrate stuff putting in life, but in a mental way. And this is something that your body was built to do. This is what your dreams are doing. This is what entering into deeper brainwave states, this kind of integration is already happening every night when you go to sleep. But in yoga nidra, we're entering into these integrative spaces consciously in a supercharged way. So yeah, it's just another way in. It's kind of like, think of talk therapy as from the outside in, and think of yoga nidra as from the inside out. And it's not an either or, they both just really support each other very well.
Oh, I love that. Yes. And sometimes people just stay with one. And I really love to just go and do many things for my body because it's like learning. A lot of people are visual, others like to write. So I think all these therapies are in conjunction, but a lot of people don't believe because they're afraid of the unknown. And like this, like you said, the words. Sometimes people, what is a mantra? What is that? And it's just, it's words that we don't understand, but I think we can learn a little bit more about it. So tell me a little bit about the benefits. I know yoga nidra has a lot of benefits, and there's science behind these benefits, right?
Absolutely. There is a lot of science behind it. And, I'll tell you that I've been teaching this for many, many years now, and I still am discovering more and more research just validating the benefits of this. And, we just need to recognize that your body is a healing mechanism. It has always been wanting to heal you. Whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, it has an inner intelligence. And when we tap into these areas, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, these changes are happening and science is actually measuring them. So one of the big areas that we see is with stress. That's one of the big areas that we see that yoga nidra is able to really rebalance a lot of us, because we've built up so much accumulated tension that the amount or type of rest that we are getting is not enough to release and rebalance the amount of tension that we have built up. And that creates what we call stress. So yoga nidra creates a very powerful and profound relaxation. It's said that 45 minutes of yoga nidra is the equivalent of 3 hours of sleep. That's the amount of restoration that it gives you. So it just supercharges your body's ability to heal and restore itself. So that's one of the big areas is stress, but lots of others too.
Yes, no, I can see, even on school, we had a lot of people that you called releases. And sometimes people have releases, and I didn't know what was that. I think we use the term in many different ways, because sometimes people just release by crying. And one thing I love that you said, when most other therapies, people tend to hug and support. And when I went there, you said, mm-mm, no hugging, just allow that. And why is it that is such an important part of releasing?
Well, I think part of you, first of all, you speak to two important things. One is when we talk about releasing, when your mind gets out of the way, your body's healing capacities are supercharged. And whatever needs to be cleared out, whether it's on the physical level or a mental and emotional level, that's what we mean by releasing. So it could be anger that you haven't felt, tears that you haven't felt. It could be also just stuff that you've accumulated. It's like your body has enough energy to do the deep house cleaning work, to take care of stuff it hasn't been able to take care of. And when this stuff is released, let's say that you've been, suppressing anger or sadness for a period of time. Very often in our society, what we do is we immediately give somebody a tissue, or essentially what we're trying to say to them is, this is making me uncomfortable, so you quiet down, right? It's okay, make it stop. But really, what we human beings often need is just the space to feel what we feel. That's it. And that alone is so healing. And to provide that for each other is so healing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I go there, because as human beings, we're always trying to do something about it. Just give them the space to feel sad, and then when you feel the tears, the feeling's gone and you feel good again.
Mm-hmm. And I love that, and your analogy of the container that you relate in the book, and it's just amazing, because we just keep burning stuff inside, literally. And can you explain a little bit about the container, because I really want people to understand that.
Sure. Do you mean did you mean the tube, like stuff moving through the tube? Or,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah. So every day, we've got all kinds of experiences that are moving through. And when we can let those experiences kind of come through, be felt, and let them pass through, that's what we're going to call a complete experience. But sometimes something happens, we don't even know what it is, but it just leaves us with this little feeling of ugh, or something's off. It could be as small as that, or it can be as big as something that feels overwhelming or shocking. And what we do is, instead of allowing it to pass through, we subtly shut it down or avoid it. And, we may need to shut it down or avoid it for a while. That's not wrong. But what happens is, if we never go back, that stuff begins to accumulate and build up in the system. So in the process of Yoga Nidra, as we profoundly release resistances, we're releasing kind of these walls that we put up to that unfelt stuff. And so as that wall is released, this stuff begins to clear through the system. You're literally cleaning house of all that stuff that hasn't been felt. And this is really important, because I think we've all come to know that, what we don't feel, what we don't allow to be felt, eventually starts to move into density. It can eventually become symptoms. It can become pain. It can become tension. It eventually can show up in the physical body. So the Nidra is going to clear all this stuff before it starts to become physical symptoms, or to help dissolve some of it if you're already starting to feel some physical symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna piggyback on that, because you have here a great quote that I love and I use so much, and it says, we have treated the mind like a spoiled child. Since we don't know how to deal with it, we give it what we want, so it will be quiet and won't be disturbing. In the end, though, we're teaching the mind that if it's screamed loud enough, it gets what it wants. So that's all the time in my brain. And it is a constant practice of just allowing that. And that's why we have so many mental illness in this world, right?
Yeah, and Absolutely. And that is the other big benefit of Yoga Nidra. So, part of it is this relaxation response, but part of it is that it is a meditation technique, which means that it's teaching us how to react differently, to interact differently with that spoiled child, that mind. So that kind of relationship to the mind, we start to gain power. And instead of feeling like we're the victim of our mind and emotions, we start to feel like we're in the driver's seat.
Yes. So tell me a little bit more about, when we do the Yoga Nidra, the first thing we do is an intention. And we talked a lot about intention. So what is intention? I know the name is Sankalpa. That's the weird name that people get afraid. But talk to us a little bit about the intention part of the Yoga Nidra.
Yeah. So the idea is just through habit, or what we have picked up in life, we have kind of unconscious and automatic ways of interacting in life. And some of those things aren't serving us. Like, we've already got a conversation going on in our head that, for example, life is hard, or it's not safe to open my heart, or things never work out for me. And by believing it, it becomes the way that we perceive and we think and we act and we live as if that's true. So intention is really a way of consciously, let's say, rewriting or planting a seed of, rather than living from this old way of being, to consciously shift and choose, this is the seed or the intention that I want to live from. So we plant the intention deep in during the Yoga Nidra, and then we repeat it in life. So what's happening is, the more that we build the new intention and act on it and repeat it, like I'm at peace with myself as I am, the more that we give attention to the new intention, the more the old one, the old pattern, I'm not safe, I'm not lovable, that all begins to die away. Mm-hmm. The beauty of Yoga Nidra is, with intention, is we often try to plant an intention in the waking state, like an affirmation.
I was going to ask that.
The problem with that is... Okay, that's what I figured. The problem with that is we're doing it at the will level, right? But that's at the effect level. But the cause level is actually much deeper than that. It's from beyond the mind. And so the Yoga Nidra actually has the power to reach in beyond the mind, to shift it from there, and then you begin to see the effects or the differences in the way that you perceive and think and act. So an example would be, you can tell yourself at the mind level, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. But if at the core of your being you don't believe it, you can tell yourself you love yourself till the cows come home, but nothing's going to change. So what we want to do is, it has to shift from the root, at the very seed where it was planted. You have to change it from there. Otherwise, nothing really changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask that, because I know you said that a lot. And normally a lot of people say, just say you're healthy. Say you're healthy every day. But again, if I feel that I am sick and the core of my, I'm not going to get... And then for years, I was repeating, I'm healthy, and I'm wealthy, I'm healthy. And I was like a parrot every day, but nothing happened. It may work to a level of, of your consciousness, but not on your subconscious. That is really, really deep in there. And that's why I believe so much in yoga and the techniques of Yoga Nidra to any type of people. So do you have any particular story? I know you have a couple on your books of people that have overcome their habits, as you call, because you have steps. First is just the behavior, there is a habit, then you get an addiction. Can you talk a little bit about that and some experiences that you may have real life with your patients?
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you a personal one, and this is when I was a teenager, actually. And one of the things that I found was that I was, in my 20s. My best girlfriend and I had broken up with our boyfriends, and we were going to be all cool, and we started smoking cigarettes for a summer. And I used this principle of, when it was time to get off, because obviously it was time. And I used this principle of just recognizing that the impulse or the feeling is just a feeling. Usually what we do is we have this feeling and we think, oh my God, I have to act on it. I have to do something. Well, who says? It's just a feeling. And when we begin to develop that kind of comfort and ability to just allow it to burn, allow it to be uncomfortable, what began to happen is very, very quickly, actually, the intensity of the craving went away. And it was actually, this sounds bad, but it was really easy to quit, right? So this is the thing. It's less about it's more about our relationship to those cravings and those feelings, feeling as if we must or we have no choice but to act on them.
Mm-hmm.
When we can change that, there's so much that we can move back down the ladder, so that it's not owning us. And it's not to say that we shouldn't have habits. Everybody has habits and we all have our likes and dislikes. There's nothing wrong with that. But the place we want to pay attention is where instead of us being able to consciously choose the habit, when it starts to choose us, where, we're at the refrigerator and halfway through the ice cream before going, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean to eat ice cream. So we want to change that so that it becomes we're the driver in the driver's seat of our life rather than our habits.
Yeah, that's such an important part of life. And when is the best time to practice Yoga Nidra?
If you feel that you didn't rest well at night, if you didn't feel like you got a restful sleep, if you want to just have set your foundation for the day, where you're going to be the sky and letting all the thoughts and emotions and drama of the day just pass through like clouds on that sky. First thing in the morning, even in bed, just put your earbuds in or whatever it is and practice your Yoga Nidra. That's great. Afternoon, I know you mentioned you liked your afternoon. I like that too. Around 2:30 is a great time because this is when our blood sugar drops. And Yoga Nidra is actually very good for balancing blood sugar. It's very good for type 2 diabetes. It's been proven to be very good for type 2 diabetes. So that afternoon, instead of the caffeine or the chocolate or the snack, go for the Yoga Nidra. And then evening. Now, for some people, the Yoga Nidra at night before they fall asleep will help them disengage from the worry of the day and fall asleep. For other people, the Nidra will actually give them so much energy that they can't fall asleep. So just pay attention and choose accordingly.
Yeah, I have a lot of my clients that said when I do the Yoga Nidra, I sleep all night. Sometimes they sleep all night, and I'm amazed that most people now with this situation, in COVID-19, people in homes, I've been doing it every Thursday for my clients, and a lot of people said, I am sleeping all night when I do it the Thursdays. So I think, like you said, anytime. For me, is afternoon. I think 2:30, 3 p.m. is just my best time because instead of going for the coffee or the chocolate, I go for that directly. If I have to go to the coffee, I'm trying to eliminate caffeine of my life. So I just try to keep with Yoga Nidra, and I think it's the best replacement, because we always replace one habit for another. And that's, I think it's human nature, it's nothing bad with that, right?
Absolutely. And this is think of those are all resources in a way. This is solving it at the source, and really Yoga Nidra is the ultimate to me of getting that clear brain that you want with the coffee, because it actually is shown to increase your gamma brainwave activity, which is when your brain is kind of operating on high octane fuel, you're thinking well, all parts of the brain are firing together. Flashes of insight are coming, you're focused, you're at your best. And you'll notice about 20-30 minutes after Yoga Nidra is over, you'll notice that your concentration and your focus comes back even more strongly. That's because of the increased gamma brainwave activity.
Yeah, no, I believe that. It's incredible what it does to me as my experience doing it for a couple of years now. So, Kamini, we have only a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to give you the floor just to recap anything that we have missed of Yoga Nidra, and just allow people to understand the deeper results. And the only thing I may suggest, just experience it, right?
Yeah, I think that is the best thing. And, here's the thing. Where could you lie down, do nothing, and release this cornucopia of healthy pharmaceuticals in your brain, from endorphins, serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, all of this stuff being released in your body, stress hormones being taken out of your system, and you're doing nothing. So it's so good for your health. It's a fantastic reboot for your nervous system. It's really good for your brain chemistry. It takes care of so many things that we should be taking care of, and yet don't have to do anything for it. What could be easier than that?
Nothing. Well, I appreciate your time so much, even your time, because we are 4 hours different. And tell us where they can find you.
Yes, so you can find me at amrityoga.org. Amy will definitely send you there. And also my name, kaminidesai.com. You can also find my apps on Google and iPhones, or Android and iPhones, just by typing in Kamini Desai in your app store. And you get 4 Yoga Nidras for $3.99, and that's indefinite. So it's just one time $3.99, and then you get 4 Yoga Nidras on there for you to try out. So now there's no excuse that you don't have a Yoga Nidra handy. And you can even do it when you don't have Wi-Fi, which is really nice. And my books are available on Amazon. They're also available on, it's like audiobooks if you want to listen to it that way, if you drive a lot or just like to listen. You can find that on Amazon as well, or in your Google Play Store.
That's the app over here. You are seeing it right now. So you can just type Kamini Desai Yoga Nidra, and that is the app. So you have it right there. So that's it for today. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being in Bienestar Integral All Senses Wellness Center. Please keep with us because we have many interviews this week and many classes as well. So stay connected with us in Facebook, Instagram, and in my webpage, allsenseswellnesscenter.com. Blessings and have a good evening. Ciao, ciao.